Well, my name's Tom Parker. Thank you for having us here at Sunpath. We're so pleased to be here. I'm one of the engineers at Sunpath Products. Also, my boss, Pat Thomas, is here today. And Bruce Robertson, who's a managing director. And we have Rob Kendall, who handles marketing in Europe. So there's some faces here you can talk to if you want to over the weekend. I know you guys want to get together. Rob. So today we're going to pack the DNKY with a 143 Ultimate Reserve. And we don't normally show this method here because everyone knows how to get to this point, but I was so impressed by watching Kenneth's techniques to show as we pack this slightly differently. The end method is kind of the same. The goal is always the same. The first and most important thing is function, function, function. Okay, it has to work. So if you pack Kenneth's method into our javelin container, that's okay. Most of the world do that. But you know it works. So why are you going to go home tonight and change it drastically because I asked you to? So if you get one little thing from this class, go down slowly, change the loop length, change your fold technique. Take a little bit at a time, but don't bite too much off at one time. So go gradually if you want to change something drastically. But at the end of the result, everything has to work, and at some parts it's got to look good as well. Please fire questions out as you go, because we have about an hour and a half, 2 hours. But I'm pretty good at not multitasking, ask my boss, but I can answer the questions as we're rigging, so let's do that. Or go over something again, I'm quite happy to. So, Pro Pack. Actually, how many people here are new parachute riggers? I know you are. Okay, you guys packed javelins before? You have, okay. Enjoy them? Not
packed a live jav.
Not a live jav, a dead one?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, all right, so what you're going to see here is what we pack every day. So we're at the sport market, which is the RSK series to the J8 series. We pack every parachute exactly the same every time for consistency because we know it works that way. So if you go to our manual online, have everyone been to our online manual? Have you seen that? Interactive? It's what you're going to see here. So again, if there's a change to the manual or the procedures or anything we do, you're going to find the most current version online. We don't do paper manuals anymore because we can keep up with things. No one gets the most current version that way. Everybody used that online manual before? You have? You have? Okay, good. So we'll start with the Pro Pack. I just do what Kenneth did, same thing, put it on the floor, and now I'm going to address the canopy. I use 7 tools. As I go through the tools, I'll explain the tools as I go to give you more instruction on why I use 7 tools. But typically, and I know you touched on it as well, it's technique. It's really technique. It's not really, the tool's important, but it's the technique on how you use the tool because you can damage so many things, the grommets, the tool itself. For me, the most important tool will be the temporary pin. Now, it's easy if you know people at AirTech, you go grab a handful. It's great, you can keep a new one every time. But if it starts to get damaged, and it's going to break the loop. And I saw a rigger last week in North Carolina, in the US, and the reserve loop was damaged. So it didn't matter about the pack job in the container, it mattered about the reserve loop, because once the container comes open, it's going to work fine. But you don't want it to come open when it shouldn't come open. Because the loop was damaged, it could prematurely deploy. And we all understand what can happen there. So I asked him, how much percentage of the loop are you allowed to have damaged? Anyone have an idea of the percentage of the loop on the reserve you're allowed to have damaged? Have a guess. 0. That's the right answer. His answer was 10%. And I said, that's a 10% you can see, because you can't always see the fibers. You can damage fibers you can't see. And I've seen it happen before where the reserve, as they go out the door, they arch, they put load on the container, the reserve loop loads, and the reserve fires. So again, going back to the pin, keep it soft, keep it smooth, buff it, get some sandpaper. But to me, that's the most important part on how you use it. So there we go. So once you've got the canopy Pro packed, put it on the ground. Tension's important. So I fold the canopy over, and I face down the lines, and I want to pull the tension through the lines, through the canopy, up the reinforcing tapes. I count 1, 2, 3. It's okay. And if I see where the A line's attached, if I draw a line coming up, as I pull that, you'll see the lines move. Do you see them? You may see them move. Anyway, then I put my toe here, lift my hand up, pass it across, and flick between my AMBs, like so. Come down. Do the same between B and C. And then I come to the side. the D lines are next, and then there's a thing we call the E fold. It's in the manual, which does confuse people. Does anybody try the E fold? Do they understand what the E fold is? They find it confusing? We're going to try and film that now so you can see it. So I open up the stabilizer and pick up the 4 D lines. And for me, the easiest way to do this is put your arm through with the lines on the back of your arm, make a crease, pull the D fold towards you, grab the D lines, pin the C lines, and fold the fabric away, trying to keep the lines in the middle, like so. And then typically you go on and continue the tail. But if you're packing an RSK or an NJ and you have a large pack volume because it's an optimum, something like that, or a speed, there's this little bit of fabric, like these 2 little knuckles, which kind of get in the way. If you don't do this, it doesn't matter, but it's just cleaner. So the E fold, if you can film in here, if you follow the seam from the D up, I don't know if you can see it, you really can't see it. There's a seam here from the D line up. There, there's not much light. Anyway, follow the seam from the D up, and just bring those up like so. Put your hand in like a knife edge. Pull it out. Do you see that thickness here? And then lay it flat. Just like so. So if you want to come down and feel that, you can actually see what I'm talking about. It might be a bit easier. It's just clearing a small bit of fabric away. It's not necessary, it doesn't affect function, how it's really going to look, but on the smaller ones like an RSK with a 126 Optimum, which is really a lot to pack, you want to make it as clean as you can, because even I struggle with those. That's why I'm not packing the RSK with the 126. Okay, so from here, gently dress your tail. And I like to ask questions while I'm doing this. It doesn't put people on the spot, but what's the difference between porosity and permeability? Any ideas? So the F111 is the same fabric if it's 0P or F111. And the more you touch the reserve canopy, you see people lie on it, get their hands and get really busy with it, they start to open the fibers up, which is allowing more permeability, more volume of air to pass through it. So you want to touch the fabric as least as possible, is the best way to put it. Does that make sense? Okay. So, with everything, it's symmetry. If you get one side mess up the other side. We'll do the same again. So I'll start with the nose. You're okay. You okay there? Yeah. I'll start with the nose. 1, 2, 3. Pull tension. Okay, stay there. And just fold between A and B. B and C. Okay. Then go through the stabilizer. Top 4 lines. Put your arm in. The reason why I do it this way is if you have a large canopy and you get hot and sweaty and it's a bit new, you get very sticky and you start to pull fabric back away from the canopy as you're doing it. So working from the outside I find much easier. We're going to go back in and do the final tweak in a second. So again, take the D lines, push them down onto the C lines with your fingers, like so, and clean the fabric out, keeping the lines on top of each other. And then it's the time to go and do the E fold. So there's the D line, there's the seam coming up. You might see that nose, there's no light. And then just follow that up. Put your hand in and fold the stabilizer out, and then continue with the tail. Okay, any questions to that? No questions? You're a quiet bunch. No sparkles, nothing? Not yet. Okay. If you come to Sunpath, you get christened a new name, you know that. We got sparkles and pickles now. God knows what they call me. But so, You pro-pack it, you lay it down, you dress it from the outside. That's 2 steps. This is the third and final step before we really bag it. We're going to go inside and fine-tune it. But it's also another chance to check that you didn't miss anything, like on a bar tag. So you put the canopy up and you inspect it, of course. But why not, again, when you scan things, scan the canopy, scan the line. So I'm going to clean up the A and B on this side. I'm going to count 4 lines and 8 bar tags. I'm making sure they're all there. I don't have to count them out loud, but I'm just, again, addressing it, taking a second look to make sure I didn't miss anything the first time. And that's your job as riggers. It's okay to make a mistake. You know, we're going to make mistakes, we're human. Kenneth does them all the time. But
Sometimes
2 times. But the job as a rigger is to find it. And we go into, you've probably seen the videos, you're going to hear this again. But if you put 1,000 dominoes up, how many dominoes do you push to knock the last one over? 1. So it's your job as a rigger not to let the first one go over, because then there can't be really anything on your end what can go wrong. So do the best you can every time. If you have that gut feeling you can do better, then do better. It's okay. So I'm going to count the bar tags, and then I always rotate this over. I don't have a good reason for it, apart from it looks neat, but I've always done it that way. Then I go back and count the bar tags on the B lines. I'm going to check inside. And there's the reinforcing tape, a continuation of the line. I'm going to pick that up and bring it straight up the center of the canopy. Pick up the C lines, check all your bar tacks are in place. Make sure it's clear, make sure you're happy. Don't just push the C's in place. Bring up the load to the canopy and drop it down gently. And do the same with the D's. The E fold, I wouldn't touch again. And then put the control lines in the center. I'm going to switch sides with you. Okay, same thing. Count your lines, count the bar tacks. Check on the B's. Make sure it's clean inside. Transfer the load up the canopy. Go to the C's. And finally do the D's. And again, don't address the E fold. And now I'm going to count 8, 8, 8, 8, because knowing where your lines are is really important, because if the lines are in the center, the fabric's clear, it's going to be a perfect opening. It really is. But if you've got a line you can't find, like especially a control line, that's a bad problem. Or fabrics crossed over between the lines with friction, you're going to damage the canopy. So again, attention to detail. So I'm going to count 8 A's. And you want to hope they line up. If your lines are like this and you pull 8 A's together, you've probably got a problem down this end where the risers are offset. It's important to make sure things line up. And you can check that all the way through with the bar tacks, or the cascades, or the brake settings as such. You can see where it goes shift. And they do shift a little bit. So make sure, again, attention to detail, they're as close as they can be. 8 B's. 8 C's. And 8 D's. Again, control lines in the center. Now your slider should just come straight back up. Fan the slider out to the left and the right. And we just push the SS down to the center and bring the lines back on top. Like so. Any questions there, guys? No? Okay. So the next thing is the reduction folds. I've heard people ask me about doing triple reduction folds, similar to the vector method you showed today. I found with the javelin it didn't really work so well, and we just go one in. Now you can take them all down and under, or all up and over, or you can do a combination. I think that coming from the top down, folding towards the center is the best way, because you're not disturbing the lines you just spent half an hour getting to get them nice and neat in the middle. As you pull away, you're opening up the pack job, you're moving fabric and you're moving lines, so the goal is to work towards the center. I start from the top because of this. If you look at the D, it looks like a curve. Do you see the curve? Slightly curved. So where do I fold it? I want a straight line. Well, if I pick this point here, the stabilizer, and imagine a line coming up here, I'm going to fold this across in line with this point here. Is that clear? Yeah. And then I pick this one up, take the next one, and go in, rotate it, and rotate. And then the next one. Again, rotate, rotate. Take the stabilizer. I don't mind if you leave it loose. I tuck mine underneath the default, and then I finalize the tail. Again, gently folding them back, one at a time. You could take them all, but if you take them all, you might miss something. There might be something you missed previously. So take one at a time, scan the canopy, make sure it's exactly what you want to make sure it's airworthy. At this point or before, you should mark the box if it's been used or not used. Okay, and you'll find the tail's going to line up pretty much evenly with the edge of the reduction folds. So we start to get the same pressure in the free bag once we do the S folds. Has anybody here not done the long split ears before? Everybody does the long split ears? Good. Okay, I'm going to switch with you. So the same thing. There's the curve. There's the end of the D stabilizer as such. I'm going to draw a line up here and fold that in. Pick up the next one. Work my way down. Rotating it in. And under. And then finally the tail. Okay. Good. Any questions on that part? Who wants a free javelin to put it in the bag? Okay, I hate this bit. All right, so there's no real magic on bagging. It's actually just technique and practice. But you're going to find the paddle we use is going to be really the tool that helps make things really easy. And I use two paddles. I use a wooden one, and in England I use an aluminium one. And why would I have two different paddles? Any ideas why I use two different paddles? Because if you only have one paddle, and it's a wooden one, and you use it for a tension device, you're going to break and damage the paddle, which means the technique I'm going to show you may damage the canopy. So ideally have two paddles. And then I'm going to talk about the grommet line. So this is the grommet line through here. The goal is to get as much fabric in the free bag as you can. And when I talk about grommet line, that's the fold point we're going to make. So this part's the S folds, and then this lower part's going to be the ears, like so. This is a safety stow, and I always touch on this because master riggers can pretty much do what they want because that's what they believe. It's not true. They can do what they want if they're instructed by the or got approval by the manufacturer or the FAA or the governing body to do that. So this safety stow is a TSO piece of equipment, and we don't want anybody making one. If you lose one or one breaks, if you go to the local sewing shop and buy some elastic, how do we know that's secure enough and going to work properly? Because there's a reason why we use a certain type of elastic. And we kind of reject maybe a third of our elastic in the shop because it doesn't meet the specifications that we require. So it's one thing. The other thing is a reserve handle. We don't allow people to make those outside either, just in case. But especially this elastic, it's got to keep the bag closed to function properly. So I know it's helping somebody out if you've got a piece in the sewing drawer, but don't use it. Okay, so from here, we'll do the first S fold. That could be a long conversation. I didn't know where I put the vodka. Okay. So the first S fold. When we pack the parachute, we don't just think about, most riggers honestly, and I travel a lot doing this, but most people think, my God, if I just get it into the free bag, I'm home and dry, and I'm going to get it in there at all costs. Well, if that's the case, and you have to kick and sweat and cry, you have to kick and sweat and cry when you get to the container too. So try and make every step the best you can every time. So I'm really thinking about not just the free bag, how it's going to look, how it's all going to go together. Pretty much as the guy walks out the door, how I see it on his back. I don't stop and focus on the free bag because you're going to get nervous at that point because you work so hard to get to the free bag, then you lose it. You have to start again, so it's frustrating. So don't think about the free bag. It's just part of the process. Because I'm thinking ahead with the AED unit, I'm now going to prepare the grommets up and back to allow the AED to sit in here properly. So I separate the line grips and actually just lift my right hand up, I drag my left hand down, keeping tension. I come around into the center, push the grommets flat and rotate back and then widen out the grommets. So you see here we made room for the AED. Have you ever opened the javelin and you see the grommets facing up like a wall? They're a stainless steel wall. All that's going to happen is the AED is going to hit the grommets and push into the main container and compromise that as well. So think about the grommets being horizontal and back as far as you can. Okay. Any questions there? You're a quiet bunch. I thought it was just Kenneth they weren't talking to you, but it's me as well. Okay, so bring the tail down, the trailing edge. And you're making a foundation now. Imagine building a brick wall. You put a brick on top of a brick and you get a wall. But if you start staggering the bricks, the wall falls over. You want to get these things on top of each other. So I'm going to make the first kind of course. And I pull tension to the edge of the center cell. Here. I bring it around. Under everything on top of the nose. There's not very much fabric, but I'm going to kind of suggest a corner. Do you see that? I'm trying to make a corner. That's my guide for my next S-fold. Okay. And then do the same this side. Find the edge of the center cell, bring it around. On top of the nose. Make a corner. So from here, it's about technique. I push the air out. I hold one side with my left hand, and I cocoon with my right. Under the knee, back out, and switch. If you do this and start to shuffle the fabric away, it's not really going to contain it. It's going to keep growing on you and moving. So hold it with tension and wrap it the best you can. So from here, 1, 2, 3. Put it over your finger, make an S-fold, push it back in. If you count 4, stop. Yeah, or keep going if no one's watching, but no, just joking. So from here, this is where most people don't do this because it's difficult. But once you learn it and master it, it's actually much better because it allows for the panic gel to sit properly in the container. Normally when the pop top's high, it's because the loop's too long. Well, the loop has to be longer to achieve the end goal if the panic job's not really the best it could be. It's like making a sandwich. The more layers you put in, the deeper it's going to get. So with a javelin, we try and make a void in the middle to allow things to sit level and flat. So from here, the biggest tip I can give you is keep your wrists on your knees. Remember the grommet point? So we're looking about here somewhere. But if my knees start here, and my wrists are on my knees because I told you to do that, your hands are up here. They're too high. So you want to keep your knees back as far as possible. And then follow the center cell, only the center cell. If it's your first time doing it, ask the customer to go and get a coffee and come back in a couple of hours. Take your time, there's no rush. There's the center cell. And you can get, as you get more comfortable, work with it. These are the long ears at the moment, but I can just push these apart like so. It's not a problem. And then again, I'll come back and redo this. I'll lift it up and I'm going to push back like a knife edge to here, which is this point here. Do you see where we are? Then about a thumb's length down, come off the top of the center cell, and then feed everything back until you get tension between your knees. I can't see if they can see that or not, but open out the center cell, and I do 2 rolls. 1, 2. It's like a modern day molar strap without a molar strap. Anybody use a molar strap? Kenneth? You guys do? Really? Still? Why? Yeah. It's not commonly used anymore, as you probably know. But if it's what works for you, it's okay. So roll that down and then put your knee in the center. And then work with these as both individual canopies. That's what I do in my head. Bring it back in line. And then cocoon this one again, like with the top skin. But be gentle. The more physical you are, the worse it's going to get. Because this canopy doesn't have a pulse, doesn't think. It's not trying to beat you. But it will beat you if you allow it to, because you get frustrated with it. So just be gentle. I hold tension at the top and kind of just dress it the best I can. And I'm going to place my thumb on the grommet line, which is here. I'm going to pick the canopy up under tension. And if this distance is too long, do you see the distance? If it's too long, I can adjust it here before I go down. And I'm going to line this edge up and this back edge up on top of that first corner when we started cocooning. Do you see that? Okay, good. And then put your knee on top of that one. And bring this one in line. Cocoon it. And do the same again. Put your thumb in line with the grommet line. Pick it up under tension. Check the distance. Adjust it if you need to. And bring the canopy back over. So there's our split ears. We have a gap through the middle is what we're looking for, which we're going to dress up the whole time. So from here, make it short, because your ear's only this long. It's like 1.5 inches, 45, 50 millimeters if you're lucky. Depends on the size of the free bag. One thing what doesn't change on all javelins between the RSK and the J8, what would that be? Between the smallest and the largest sport, what never changes? That's true. That's true. But pretty much, I'm talking about the volume of the pilot chute, the reserve pilot chute. It's always the same size. The bridle's always the same length. So on a smaller rig, you've got a smaller rear estate, a smaller surface to actually put everything. So that's why more attention to detail is important on the small ones. So then from here, a lot of people fold around their hand. It gets really big and bulky. Try and keep it small. I come off, up, and in over the nose, and back down. Like so. Do the same this side. Pinch it, come off, up, in, over the nose, and back down. Okay, so this now should be kind of the size of the free bag. Oops, swing. I start with the right ear and get as much as you can in. Push the bag down and under, then the left ear. It's pretty tricky. Bring the bag around the canopy. Not the canopy into the bag is ideal. Yeah.
Is there an upside down?
Upside down?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it won't sit in the won't, the way it's shaped, it won't go in upside down in the container.
So what is the right way up?
As it is now.
Yeah, but so
The line stows to the bottom.
line goes to the bottom.
Yeah. So from here, just check your grommets are still back out the way. like so. Because they do slide forwards. Now I'm not concerned about the fabric because I've got this space here and this space here to go inside, so that's where the paddle comes in. So this is good. Okay. Like Kenneth does with the vector, we do the same thing. So we close the left side off first. And because I don't want the grommets to come forwards, I'm actually going to take the bag and kick it forwards as I do the stow. Like so. And then the second one. Okay. All right, any questions on that? It's hot, isn't it? Really hot. No questions? None? Okay.
You did the left stow first for the AAD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's much better, thank you. Yeah, it's much better that way. It creates, you get away from the Velcro, if there's Velcro, and you can move it for the bulk of the AD unit.
Velcro of the AAD.
Yep. So from here, stand the bag up. We're going to take the paddle, we're going to come down, rotate into the lower ear and push, back into the first edge fold and push. And that helps get the thing smoothly and cleanly in there. This is a 143, which is the large size for this bag. So we go in, into the ear, push down, come back, push. And do the same on the other side. Slowly, slowly work the fabric. Do you think you could turn the air down, Pat, up there? Do you mind? It's hot in there. Find the ear, push in, push down, find the first S fold. And because we have the long split ear, we can go into the middle and we can start to separate the two. This is making room for the pilot chute and the bridle. And I can even go in from the side and push that down. Bruce, do me a favour. Grab a paper towel for me, could you? So it slowly goes into the free bag. Again, always making room. You're going to work the fabric away from the center of the free bag the whole way until you get the side flaps down, because the container is going to close this gap back up. It's going to allow you to have an easier placement of the side flap and the side flaps when they come down. So is everybody familiar with this technique? I know you are. Everyone used this technique before? Okay, good. So from here, put your knee in the center, take the fabric and rotate it in and pull the bag closed, like so. The most important thing is grommet to grommet on the free bag here. You don't want any separation. Okay. Oh, thanks, Bruce. Excuse me. Oh, dear. Okay. So, I use 7 tools. We talked about some. This is just a piece of Velcro. It's long enough to go over any size free bag we use. Some people use 2. They have one for the left, one for the right. You can do that, but it's one more tool to count and to carry, to think about. Do you think it's better to go over the top or go underneath? Over the top. Why?
For me personally, I do over the top because it keeps the centre lines there, so I can work with the bag a bit easier.
Exactly. Because when you finish, you continue on. You don't disturb the line group. So Velcro does not like anything at all apart from Velcro. So protect it at all costs from the lines, the canopy, anything else. Okay. I can show a technique of letting gravity help and put the lines in. It's one we've never used. Again, the most important thing is that the lines actually come out backwards to where you put them in. Do you understand? The lines can't cross over each other. So that's why we put the twist in. So as I pull the container up, this one comes out first. It doesn't pull over this one because it will cause friction and damage and could break a line. So always put the turn in. And I start this side. There's many ways to do this. Some people use tools. I just use my thumbs. Again, I pull the container and I rotate. So I know this is going to come out first. Hold the center, bring the line up and over, and repeat till you finish. I like to get as much line in the pocket as possible. It's less to get snagged inside the container or somewhere else. So gently take a little bit as you go, make sure the lines aren't exposed to the Velcro, and then cover it up. Just do it a little bit at a time. As you get to the center, you're going to hop over the top, and then continue. What time is it?
It's 10 past.
10 past 2. Okay. Thanks. All right, can I go? I'm going to pull this up. God, it's just so off. Okay, from here, let's talk about the closing loop. Who thinks it's a good idea to change the closing loop every time? Who thinks it's a good idea to use the one what's in there? Let's see a show of hands again. Change it every time? Use the one what's in there? Why is it a good idea to change it? Sorry? Okay. There's 3 major reasons why I like people to change the loop. I'll go first. It's new, so it can't be damaged. There's 1. 2 more. Sorry? Correct length. So it's going to finish the way you want it to finish. And what's the other most important one of why you should change the loop every time? Mm-mm. You put it through the cutter. You didn't allow the last rigger to miss it, and you bowed his loop. Okay? It's happened. Who is guilty? I use the word guilty, it's a strong word. But if the loop's too long, you haven't got to make a new one. You can just pull the tail down and grab this. And if you just wedge a bunch of this stuff in there, then you pull it, you get the right length. Anyone ever done that? Yeah, of course. But that's not the way to do it. If it's not correct, redo it, do it again, okay? It's not in the manual. It doesn't say how to shorten a cypress loop, and it shows you that. And I see it a lot because we get a lot of rigs coming for repair. It happens a lot around the world. So don't shortcut anything. If you shortcut this, what else will you shortcut? You know, have the highest standard, do the best you can every time. I've packed more javelins than most people, and I look at this one as the only one I've ever packed. I think about it just like it's the first one. You know, that's why I'm sweating, because I'm scared. But I pack it with the same thought process. I don't get complacent because I pack so many. I don't. I get more in tune with it because I want to make sure it's the best I can do. So don't shortcut anything, really. In your career as a rigger, it's not worth it. Okay, any questions? So the loop length in the manual is 53 millimeters to 56. It's a bit short. It's going to change when we update it, because it depends on the climate, depends on the size of the volume, depends on your packing technique. Again, if you pack a different manufacturer's method into a javelin, you probably can't close it with that loop length. So we're going to probably put a bigger range in there for you to make it a bit easier. But don't feel locked in because it's in the manual that way. So there is some room for adjustability there if you need to. Okay, so it's very springy. It's because of the K-series, how we developed the K-series. We lost some reinforcings and some buffers, and it's quite springy with the scope subflap now. So the best way for me to get it across is to push this down. I pin the risers to the free bag, and I just rotate everything across. But I don't put the free bag in the container. I don't want to. I've got my back to you. Do you guys want to come this way? Do you have room? Or should I just move up a little bit? Okay. So I leave my forearm here, and I set the risers in place. I pull the risers towards the bottom of the container as I pull the yoke forward to make it nice and tight and snug over the shoulder. This is an A yoke, so it's a short plastic, so I want to be careful that I don't break the plastic. So, and do the same on this side. It goes under this flap, the yoke, pull the riser, pull the yoke, get them on top of each other and pin them with your knees. Now you can place everything between your knees and make it easy to see what's going on. Uh-huh. Okay, so I cycle through the cutter. This is a 1,000-pound Spectra. Why would I use a 1,000-pound Spectra on this and not follow AirTech's recommendation of using the line they supply?
It's already gone through.
It's already gone through the cutter, that's right. So this allows the loop to be bigger, which allows less stress on the loop. With a pin what's been new or buffed out, there's no damage to actually snag the loop on the way in. And I put lots of lubricant on it, which you said earlier, to make it easier, to make the thing most efficient and have the best result. So this little thing here, if you can see it, go your side. We call this a dog ear, because it's like a dog ear. That's what it's called. There's other words we use internally too. But that's a dog ear. And keep them outside of the container, especially with an RSK or something like an NJ. If you pack the dog ears in, it's really hard to get them out because it's so tight. So make sure you're through the cutter. The mistake people make here is they try and get the bag and push the bag into the container. That allows the loop of the cutter, the loop of the cypress loop, to go around the cutter and get trapped. If the loop's the correct length, it's going to snap because we try to simulate it and I snap them every time. But if the loop's too long, you won't know that. So it's really simple to prevent that. Put the pull-up cord through. I found the risers, so the rear riser is on the floor plate. As you push the bag down, pull tension on the pull-up cord. It will keep the loop tight and upright and not go around the cutter. Again, check it's where you want it. And then place your knee onto the free bag. Okay, so now I'm going to make a hole for the AED, which we started earlier with the pack job with the grommets being up and backwards. Every chance I get to get the fabric in the free bag, I'm going to take. On the side of the free bag, you'll see the binding tape. It's like a ledge. If you put your fingers on there, you can gently push it down on both sides, working it into the container. Keeping your knee in the center, working the AED back into the pocket. Spend as much time here, or more time as you do with the canopy into the free bag, because if you get it right here, everything else goes together much easier. I'm going to take the wooden paddle, and you see how the canopies come together? We lost that split in the middle. I'm going to take this side and push it down into my left hand and start to open that back up, and do the same on the right side. On my right. And start to make that hole again, clearing fabric away. Okay. Good. Any questions there? Well, grab a drink of water. Sparkles, no questions.
No, saving the best for last.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, good, I can't wait. Thank you.
Just a quick one there, Tom. So, well, we've got Kenneth in here as well. With the Skyhook system, there's a stage deployment loop in optionally in vectors.
Uh-huh.
How come there isn't one in the
We don't need one. Because you have a stage deployment with the way the bridle's routed now, because you do the bridle routing, and then you go part of it, or pretty much 7 feet, will be on top of the free bag. And then this comes down with the other 5 feet, there's your stage right there. So you get tension from the spring to here, so it's continuation without being just thrown into the wind. Yeah.
Just to throw that in there, something in there as well, the staging is independent from the Skydiving system.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not directly related to the Skyhook. So, and it was a response from something that happened in 2009 on a vector. And that's why there was
I don't know why I draw those parallels,
okay.
but just
I just want to make sure that that's...
Yeah, no, I'm getting from when Sunpop put in the Skyhook system, they changed having to have that extra flat, whereas you didn't need to add extra flats really to affect it. But then you did that roughly. But
Yeah, they're just two independent systems, so they're not related, which is why it won't go on Tom's there. Sorry, Tom.
No, you're okay.
Just wanted to make
You're
sure
right,
that
that's
was
good.
clear, yeah.
So again, the current manual method we're showing you supersedes everything out there, even the Legacy series without a Skyhook, or if you have an Odyssey without a Skyhook, you pack the bridle the same way. So it's just one uniform way to do it. Actually, here's a bit of trivia. I said 7 feet and 5 feet. Why would that be not in the center? Why is the Skyhook offset? Anyone know? For a free pull-up cord.
If you're having
Go on.
If you're having a large deployment rather than a regular reserve deployment, one reserve pilot should hang below free bag.
You came last year, didn't you? I'm glad it wasn't a rig offered. So, as you can see here, if I'm actually the red lanyard, what goes to the Skyhook, the pilot chute can't go below, just like you said, it's correct, below the free bag and get entangled. That's why there's an offset. So, if you don't have a Skyhook on the system, it's 7 feet and 5 feet to the pilot chute. Okay, so S-fold the bridle in place. And then I set this without putting the pull-up cord through in the pin. So take the green loop, put the green loop into the pocket, and slide it down. Take the red loop, and if you're not sure, there's a diagram here, and it goes over the green. Open up the plastic or the Lexan cover, slide the loop onto the Skyhook, and pull it down securely. You see that? So it follows this diagram. Any questions there? Okay. And then, safety tie. Why do we use safety tie? Why can't we use E-thread or anything else? Because people do. So if you have an idea to improve the product and join the R&D department, call us before you start doing it. Because some countries do it on their own, and you can't land a reserve pilot chute the last time I checked. So safety tie because it has to break, because the Skyhook's fantastic, but if you have to get out at 2,000 feet because the wings fell off, the pilot chute's got to launch and work normally through sequential deployment. So of course it breaks with safety thread. Some people use fishing line, some people use super tack, they've even used harness thread. And that's the case, it's true, yeah, so don't do it again. So again, safety thread, you know. Red thread doesn't count. It's got to be able to break easily at 4 pounds or roundabouts there. Talk amongst yourself for 10 minutes because I've only got one eye and this is really tricky. Okay. I'm going to follow your method, Kenneth, and do the 3 twists, which I've never done till today, and it makes a lot of sense. It's actually much more secure. And take the sharp things away. Not good.
You missed the bit where you take pictures.
Oh, don't tell them that.
It's opposite.
Shh, that's an internal secret. I'm terrible with, so I'm going to share it now. Let's get 2 things out of the way now, shall we? Who's ever washed a side press apart from me? I've done it. Yeah, I've done. I washed a side press. Yeah. How many?
Was it still water or fresh water? He said it was soap water.
Yeah, wasn't good. I've got a thing about loops going through cutters. I've never missed one in my career ever. But if I'm at Sunpath packing, let's say I'm packing Patrick, I'll be there for 5 hours because I keep opening up and checking it like OCD. It's terrible. And the guy's, Tom, it's okay. It's like, now I'm going to check it again. So I teach now. But
I know you take pictures with the serial number and get through them.
yeah, I do. It's crazy. Yeah. My pack jobs are very expensive. They're like $1,000 if you want me to pack for you. So, but what I'm trying to say there is that we all make mistakes, and the more you do, the more chance you're going to make a mistake, and other people learn from your mistakes. So honestly, there's things I've done. Do you remember when they came with the video cameras in the late 90s and they filmed Sunpath? They'd been there for a week, and I was on front line building rigs, and I was new and keen. I wanted to be on the video. So the guy sits down in front of me with this great big TV camera on it, and as I'm, he's filming me, I must be great. I come off the binding tape and across the back pad. It's like, you know what? It's my one chance. I'm going to keep going. I'll fix it later. So you make mistakes, and it's okay to make a mistake. That wasn't a mistake. That was an error of judgment. But I would say it's okay to make a mistake. That's why I said when I first started, find the mistake you made. We're all human. I'm not any different to you guys. I've just done more of it. So keep that in mind. So now I'll go through the Skydiving sub flap. And my goal here is to keep all the bridle, as much of the bridle, away from here as possible. This has some funny folds in from last time. Okay, we're going to push it down. Get as much, when you close your main container with the first flap, you get as much as you can the first time. Think about that method here. You want to get as much as you can right now. So pull that across, bring that through, get as much as you can. Gently put your knee, here we go again, put your knee on the sky hook. We close the wearer's left side first, but it's universal. It doesn't matter if it's left or right, but go with the left. I'm going to put my hand in the channel like so and push the opening in the free bag away from the side flap. And then do the same on this side, making sure the dog ear's out. I'm not strong enough anymore, so I use a paddle. Push it across, push the free bag away from you. Pull the loop through, and pin. Okay, so this is the last chance you get to actually go in here again and clear that fabric away from the channel. And you're not pushing blindly, you're pushing the folds you made earlier, keeping things opened up. So you see the hole we have now? Can you see that? There's a big hole with depression right inside here. This is called the line protector cover. Comes across. And there's our hole. So if I put this across the top, you can see that with that camera? Come this way. Do you see how much of a space there is for the pilot chute? That's where things go. If there wasn't space there, that negative space would be a positive space and go higher that far, and then the loop's got to be longer. So that's why we've worked from the beginning to get that hole right there. Okay. I keep my knee on this flat most of the time. It's a good habit to get into. If you guys are packed at home on a wooden floor, a tiled floor, the rig starts to move, especially with the spring. When you push the spring down, it's going to move away. You pray for the wall to come up really quick before you lose all control. Just put your knee on the flap, it won't go anywhere. Okay, finishing end of the bridle. Up. And see how this one goes. I normally do this 2 or 3 times because I'm pretty particular about where this lines up. Because here we have a trifold and a trifold. That's 6 folds of fabric. The layers are quite thick. We have single folds here, or doubles if you like. So some people get to the end and they've got this much left, so they do this. Now they've got 12 layers of fabric on one side. And on a smaller container, the balance is now offset and you have to fight harder. So ideally, you want the knot to stop on top of the grommet and you're standing straight up. Now, this one's got a split, so it's quite easy to figure out where it's going to go. But if it's just one colour, there's a runoff on the binding tape. And ideally, you want to hide it underneath this flap here, we call the A&E, or the top flap. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if you leave it out. It's just aesthetic. Again, attention to detail. What colour is it? Green. Okay. Laura Golly's rig had this as well with the Galaxy pattern in Australia. So the group, peer pressure, twist it 180, Tom. She won't mind. She lost her mind. So I'm not doing that again. Anyway, so this looks pretty good. Yeah, I like that. Again, take the twists out. They create bulk. Like so. Okay. Take one across. Now, I don't mind if the bridles touch each other. People put the V in. On a larger container, J2, 3, 4, 5 and up, you can do this, you've got more room. But if you look on this flap here, there's 2 bar tacks. There's one here and there's one here. And they're inside the tension crease, which would happen if the loop's the right length. So it's like this doorway or this gateway where things can't actually get out. It's a physical natural barrier we create with the right tension. So on the RSK, which is smaller than this, if you have them touching or slightly even overlapping, it's okay because they have to be inside those bar tacks. And the bar tacks are closer on the smaller containers. Does that make sense? Okay. So I always put my paddle there just because it makes you feel better. Go in. If you haven't got a 1,000-pound Spectra, you can use the line what AirTech provide and just finger trap a piece in the middle, in the center, make it thicker. Most people do that, which is great. Okay, so this just stands straight up. When I look through here, what 2 things am I looking for? What am I checking? That's one, yeah. What's the other thing? That's the most important. What's the other thing I'm looking for? Yeah, centered on the grommets, because you can move things around. So, you can hold this in your teeth. And after years of doing this, I can still talk, which is a shame for you guys. But if my knee's on this final flap, as I push this pop top down, the rig's not going to move, so that's important. And I'm going to push the pop top down at a slight angle, so it mimics the reserve angle, the tray. If you push flat down, the bottom of the spring can kick out, and then it can buckle the spring. Anybody know what the spring pressure should be, what the range is, the reserve spring pressure? Do you guys have to check it every year, every time you pack, as part of your syllabus? It's 25 to 32 pounds.
You have to check it, but they do have to properly reserve and make sure.
Yeah, okay. We check them as they come through repairs, because, geographically we get everything back. And I found after 5 years there was a slight difference as a pattern. I found some 96s and 95s and earlier, which were just brand new. And then it depends on how it's been packed, if someone bent the spring or not. But if you start getting down in the lower range, then you should probably replace it. Because it always, I think, worst case scenario, because worst case for me is Cypress activation altitude. It's already gone bad anyway, and you want everything else to go really, really well. So you want a good, strong launch. So push down. Take out the fabric. I take the pull-up cord and I push it away from me and place my knee onto the pop top. Okay, this is the first time I use a tension device. I've never tried the one you use. I think it's an excellent tool in the right hands, for sure. I've seen people use them. Again, it's where skill comes in with technique, not brute force. I've trained Navy SEALs. I mean, these guys could pick us all up and chuck us out the window. And they get in there and they're physical, and things start to break. The plastics, you know, they give me break tools. So it's about technique. If you're struggling, there's probably a reason. Something's probably not right if you're struggling. So I keep my knee on the pop top. I slide my knee down as I turn the crank to get some tension. And again, my hand's low on the crank. It's not high for more mechanical advantage. My bar's not this long. I'm not putting a tire on. My hand's low down. Take out the temporary pin. It should be pretty much silent. And I turn and tap at the same time. Do you see? Just till the loop comes through. As the loop comes through, put in the pin. Okay, any questions there, guys? Can you guys see the screen? All right, I'm going to go this way now, do you mind? Just so everyone can see. Okay. Now, I'm going to place my knee. See that hole? There's the hole we made for the pilot chute fabric. I'm going to place my knee on the back of the pop top, and it's going to keep the pop top up. And the technique is to go down, under, and around, and eliminate all the fabric under the cap, apart from where it's sewn. I've got to be honest, Dave Ruffle developed this technique back in the late 90s. We tried to out-rig each other, and he won, because it was just the best method to move it, and that's what we did from there on. So, my knee goes on the back. Bring the fabric over your knee, down, under, and around. Down, under, around. Down, under, and keep going until you run out of fabric. Like so. And now start here. A lot of people at this point move the pin. When they rotate the pin, they put a twist in the closing loop, and they shorten the closing loop. So think about that. If you keep turning the pin, you're not sure where it should be, you're making things harder for yourself. So it's okay to move it, just put it back. So here the trick is, again, lift up the pop top, put the fabric over your knee. With your right palm, push down the bridle, make a gap here. Keep your hand in the center. If you come from the front and bring it around, it's kind of cheating. You're going to create a lot of bulk. You're not really going to gain too much. So push this down and slide the mesh. The F111 is going to follow. It has to. They're sewn together. So when you get to here, you can use the two-finger technique if you're smart. But there's nothing under here apart from where it's been sewn. Make a small twist, push it under the first coil. Push down, turn, and repeat. I'm actually going to turn the pin away from me. Bring the fabric over my knee, bring the bridle back into the center. Again, the same thing, push down the bridle, slide the mesh to the center. Do not come from here. The F111 is going to follow. It has to. And then put your knee in the center. And make a loose T. The reason why I say a loose T, if you pull tension on the fabric now, it's going to pull out to where it's sewn around the perimeter of the pop top. And you've got to start again. So very loosely. Don't put any pressure on it at all. Just make a loose T. Pull down. We call this the A, B, C, D, and E flap. Again, put my knee back on top. Come through. Put the pin back. Okay, crank again. A lot of people ask me why I don't use a knee plate. Who uses a knee plate? Anybody? Everybody? I don't. I never have because I wasn't taught with that. I wasn't taught with clamps. So everyone gets taught different ways. They stick to what they know. But they say, well, if you don't use a knee plate, you're going to crack a grommet. Again, I've never cracked a grommet because I'm working away from the grommets. If I roll towards me, I could crack a grommet, absolutely. Do you have one of those PD cards, those packing cards? What come with the line cards? Do you have one with you?
No.
Okay. So I'll find one tomorrow and talk about it. So again, as I pull this flap down, I'm going to push the pop top away from me, like so, to help it come down. Take out the temporary pin. A little noisy. It was a little noisy, that one. Good job. Timing wasn't good, but the rest of it was. Come through. Okay. So again, it's always checking, rechecking really. This is the last chance you get to look inside to make sure that your sky hook's the way you want it. And make sure the plastic hasn't broken, the thread's still intact, is routed the correct way, and it's actually attached to the sky hook. If one of those things is missing, what do? No, you just keep going. No, you change it, you fix it, you make it right every time. So if the red lanyard was routed incorrectly, it would be on top of the white bridle. So I can see it's underneath, I can see it's attached, and I can see, can you film in there? Not well, but you can see everything's intact, it's ready to go. So from here, these dog ears, I'm going to put in place. Now, contrary to popular belief, these aren't extra flaps. If the free bag's this high, these aren't flaps you beat down to put the free bag in the container. They're just there to cover up dust and other little things getting in. So just fill the pocket with a paddle in the dog ear, push over the free bag, and down. It's not there, okay. Do the same on this side. Gosh, I brought you a rig, Bruce. I have a special rig which just folds itself. It's lovely, it's automatic. I forgot to bring it. And down. Okay, so from here, keeping, again, a mistake I've made. Do you remember? You must remember. I used to hit this on the floor, and the actual cable housing came across, and it broke the cypress. Remember years ago? I went crying to Pat. Fix it. So hold it off the ground, because there could be stones in the carpet, there could be something in the carpet, but especially the housings, they can get elongated and come across. Just hold it here, and just give that a tap, which helps this flap come across a little bit easier. If you do it on the ground, you could damage or break the vinyl window, which tears quite easily. So think about that. Now, this next tip, it's worth $1 million, it really is. And there's a guy in California showed it to me when I was struggling one day in a class like this. When you've got a Fat Daddy reserve handle, the cable itself, I liken it to like a fire hose. It wants to fight you. You're trying to hold it in place, hold the pin in place. You're already nervous. It's already been a struggle to get to here. And the pin keeps falling off because there's so much tension in here. You guys come across that? Just me? All right, so it's really easy. Take this out the pocket, cover it with the line protector for the free bag, never leave it exposed. Now, when I put the pin through, I'm in control of where it goes. It's really, really simple. And before we do that, why do you think we have Velcro on here? Why do we put the Velcro? This one's for 2 pull-up cords. Why is the Velcro like that when it's finished? Any ideas? Keep the pin in place? The pin will stay in place. I'll show you what happens if you don't have it. Yes. 2 pull-up cords to use, barcals. So even though once the pin gets just past the grommet line, the center of the grommet line, the reserve's coming out, all the magic happens, you're good to go. But when you go, you think, oh my God, what's going on? Nothing probably, but it's all happening anyway. What happens is, without the Velcro, it doesn't allow the pin to swivel. So when you pull the ripcord, it gets stopped there on the housing. Do you want to come around this way? See that? So I'm going to do it again. Can you see it on the screen? So without the Velcro, as I pull the ripcord, it gets jammed in the top of the opening for the reserve ripcord. It's okay. It's not great. If you're the guy pulling the ripcord, you're not happy for a second or two, but everything's working. So what happens is with the Velcro, it's a timing thing. It's a hesitation. So it allows the bridle to stay in place, rotate the pin, and the marine eye comes off at the pin. Does that make sense? Yeah? Any questions there? All right. Let's get to the last bits. So, if you look at the marine eye, there's a chamfer on one side, and it's kind of blank on the opposite side. So there's a right way and a wrong way. They both function, but one's correct and one isn't. So, if you're not sure, when you put it in on the chamfer side, you'll see a straight line from the pin down the ripcord itself. If you go the opposite way and try and create a straight line, you can't. It's an angle, which tells you it's wrong. So again, they both work. One's not correct. So check it. Again, the most important thing is to cover up this because it's right beside the harness. And you don't want to damage the harness. Okay. Working away with the crank again. If you notice, this crank is solid, and there's 2 holes. Let's talk about that for a second. How much time have we got? 10 minutes? Loads. So this is solid. Have you seen the hollow ones? You guys use hollow ones? If you wrap the pull-up cord around the drawers as such, the end, they close on you, and they get damaged quite easily and get sharp. So I think a solid one's better. And then the 2 holes, which offset the crank, it's easier to actually use rather than have to go a whole 180 to get it back out again and you start to struggle. It has just a 90-degree offset. So if you have to drill another hole through, I'd recommend doing that. But definitely a solid tool like this is, I think, better. So on, roll away. If it goes bad, just quit the feed. Take out temporary pin, tap, tap, tap. Okay, so hopefully it goes a little easier. Remove the pull-up cord slowly. Most of the time I just cut it and go and get some more because I've got plenty of it. But remove it slowly. What's the maximum force allowed to be on the pin? So if this is the reserve pin, and this is my closing loop, how much force am I allowed to pull down? What's the maximum force allowed? 22 pounds, that's correct, yeah. Who thinks 30 pounds should be okay to pull? 30 pounds? You'd have a really hard time pulling 30 pounds. I've tried it. It's really, really hard. So check it. I think you guys have to check it. We do check it with a peak force scale at Sunpath. We're not, the FAA don't make us check it, but we all do it at Sunpath. We know what they feel like. And they're normally between 18 and 16 pounds. The next day it will go down a pound or 2 for sure. But imagine, again, worst case scenario, 100-pound girl, just off AFF. You know, she got a hard pull. It's not going well, she's tumbling. Make things easy. Don't allow the first domino to go over. Don't make that yours. You know what I mean? Make sure it's correct every time. Okay, big thing here. Don't forget to put this back because it'll really spoil your day. So push this in here, put it back. And then the last thing would be to take the metal paddle, because this one's going to break over time and splinter. Work towards you. Even though it's fun, don't get me wrong, it's great to watch people push it around the floor until they figure it out. Work towards you. So what you're going to do is kind of S-fold off the pilot chute. You're going to push it up under the A&E, which is this one, and then down into that hole you made earlier. So make an S-fold, work towards you, up, and you can feel the hole. I do a couple of bites, and I'm down. Do the same thing on this side. Again, working towards you. Okay. Now we probably get 1 or 2 calls a year from riggers telling us that this flap's too short. And so the first question we ask is, how long's your loop? So you can see that this flap is a lot longer than the pocket it goes into. But if your loop's too long, these flaps migrate away from each other. So it looks like the flap's too short, and really it's probably because your loop's too long. So from there, to finalize it, you can beat it if you want, but honestly over time it's going to hurt your body. So I just take a paddle and I just push down. And this is making room for the main risers, because between the side of the reserve container and this stitch row, which is the side of the back pad, is about 14 millimeters. Yeah, millimeters. So making room for that channel. And I've got a slight crease there, which is not good. But overall, that's what we do at some parts every day. So any questions on that part of the pack job? Or any questions at all about this product?
It's a $900 pack job then.
This one? Yeah, a bit less. Do you see it? Any questions, guys, at all?
When you do the research check, sometimes I found that if the yoke is too short, it's not the same if you do the pull check in the handle or in the pin. I found in some parts of France with the small yoke.
What in France? What they're required to check and how they're required to check it?
With the handle.
By the handle?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see some differences in that.
Have you ever had anything like that with the chariot?
No, we check all ours from here, they're again 22 or less, and it all depends on the apparatus. Is it calibrated? Is it being verified? What's the angle of the pull? It shouldn't matter that when you have more friction with a longer housing, a longer cable, you're trying to say the D yoke's got more friction than the A yoke. If you're pulling from this point here, it's possible. I don't know. I've never checked it, but it depends on what your requirements are in the country you're in, I think. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, well, it's just basically saying that if any smaller yoke will make more friction.
More friction? I don't see why that would be.
No, just asking.
Yeah, I don't see how that would be.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
When you said you check the ejection force of the pilot chute spring,
Yeah.
it's got to be within its tolerances. How is it that you're checking it? So
We check on a calibrated scale at Sunpath. It's designated for that. And but if you're at home, you can pretty much go to your bathroom scale, put the spring on, push it down to being within 1 inch of being collapsed, and read what it says. And that would be a pretty good verification of where you're at. Because we're not all going to go and get something calibrated every year and pay the money for it. But that's one good way of actually doing it, and I've done it before that way as well.
between what poundage again?
25 and 32.
Pounds.
Yes, pounds. Yes. Yeah. Now, some people think that's a weak spring. I'm going to guess yours is 50. Other containers are more.
Yeah, it varies.
It depends.
We put out a certain spool sent back from the Vector 1 to the Vector 2 test these, and you can find it on our website as well that describes the entire testing process. It's essentially what Tom was describing. I believe the bottom number is about 20 pounds
Yeah.
for our type of pilot chute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is very light, but that was tested and tried at the time.
Yeah.
So if you get closer to it, or if you have any doubts, send it back to the manufacturer for verification.
Exactly. Exactly. You really want to be on the bottom end, you know, because they can't afford to be on the bottom end. It's that first domino. But pretty much, to be the best you can be every time is treat each pat job as the only one you're going to do. Make sure you give as much attention to detail as you can. If you're not sure, check it. Get some help if you're not sure. Ask a manufacturer. We love it when you call. People get intimidated. Don't call us. We'll call him first. But
Don't call me.
but call us. What's your cell phone number, Bruce? I always give mine out by mistake.
Anytime, yeah. Both of us or all the manufacturers, anybody can always contact. If we don't know the answer, we'll find out who has the answers and get back to you. We're not just going to bullshit. Well, Tom does it. But generally, we don't.
Can I ask why, I mean, I've never ever used a motor strap, but why you've stopped using a motor strap?
Well, I've never used one.
No.
But I've got a funny story about motor strap.
Yeah,
Do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
We've got time.
Yeah.
You remember this one too. About 1998, somewhere in there, bless his soul, Dave DeWolf. Do you know who Dave DeWolf is? He's a famous American reggae, he just passed away. He sent an official letter to Sunpath, to Derek, complaining about my loop length being too short. And my ego at that time was like, who the hell does he think he is? So I was giving my first symposium seminar in California, which is a nerve-wracking experience, to be honest. And everybody, and I would say there was like 400 people, you know, or more, it was that big, were there. My peers, the people I highly respect, are all sitting there, and I'm the guy teaching. It's like, oh, this is so nerve-wracking. But Dave DeWolf was there, and I was still remembered that he wrote the letter about my pat job being too tight with the loop length. I was like, okay, I'm being British and sarcastic, I gotcha. So I made a molar strap and put it in my pocket. So I got to the point in front of the whole class about who uses a molar strap, and everyone's like, some people are doing like this and some people aren't. Oh, Dave, I'm glad you're here because I knew I'd find you. Hey, I found this last week and I knew it was yours because your name was on it, so I thought I'd give it back to you. Oh. It was,
He didn't leave it in there.
no, he didn't leave it in there. No, he didn't. I made it up. But it was just my get back because he wrote about my loop length. But that's my molar strap story. The only time I ever touched one was I made one up to give to Dave DeWolf in front of everybody. Pretty mean. But I've never been trained with them. Some people do use them. And again, honestly, I know you guys use them. It's okay. But I've seen things this year where people use things they probably don't need. And it's caused problems. If it was used, it would be in death. There was a strap used on a round which shouldn't have been used, what was left in for 2 years. And things like that, which is equivalent to a molar strap. So in my mind, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. It's just when. It's your job to, again, stop the first domino from falling over. So they've been left in before, they've been caught. And it's something what's not really necessary in today's techniques. So again, it's personal preference.
Also, it just comes down to good tool control as well.
Exactly, yeah, it's important. It really is.
Can't make it come out.
Yes, it's important.
The way that we try and explain to anybody we work with as well is that there's a bunch of tools out there, the various tools and how you use them. The big thing is that we're all humans and humans make mistakes. Anybody out there, whether you catch it or hopefully you catch it or you don't, but people make mistakes. We prefer not to use any type of tool that, if forgotten or something goes horribly wrong in missing things or giving you tools and not counting them, that it can hinder the functionality. And essentially, a motor strap can. Same thing with tying down lines. At the links, canopy will probably come out and then you have it there. But if you do it up at the slider, that's also a position where you don't want it to ever happen. So we're very, very adamant about that, about recognizing what kind of tools can and cannot cause a functionality issue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think it's great not to experiment, to have a good idea and try something. But if it's that different to what most people use, you probably want to get like a second opinion, maybe, because people are going to be innovative and come up with better ways, self-packing free bags and such things like that. People try to do that, but again, I think it comes down to technique, skill, and pretty much following the manual or the recommendation of the manufacturer. Again, brute force never wins. Again, if it doesn't feel right, I had a rigger last year, and it looked terrible. I said, why does it look so bad? Well, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was struggling. Nothing good happens after 8 o'clock at night. So don't be rigging at 2 in the morning if you're stressed out and it's not going well. Stop, walk away from it, come back. It's not worth it for anybody at all. So any questions at all?
Just
Well,
going back to the reserve springs. Am I right in thinking the newer ones are orange, but the older ones were just plain steel?
It's the same spring. It's just got a powder coating on it.
Yeah,
There was
so
no
that's
change
not been-
apart from that.
It's not been changed now.
No, not at all.
There was a bit of change in the swage.
The swedge, yeah, the swedge changed. Yeah, so
Doesn't affect anything.
no, nothing you're really going to notice. So thank you. We're here all weekend. Again, the whole team's here. So if you have any questions about anything with the company, please ask us. I know we're going to take a 15-minute break. Or what time is it now, please, Pete?
It's coming up towards 3.
All right, so at 3:30.
We're going to stick in the next thing, so yeah, take a sort of 10-15 minute break.
Yeah, take a break, and then there's going to be a question and answer.
Yeah, I'll just do